Everything you've heard about the KISS years and the KISS stage shows and the spectacle is true. It's not a legend. We're going to show every new band how the big
Hello,
boys
everyone, and
do
welcome
it.
to Right Between the Eyes podcast, a KISS podcast with three generations telling you why we love it loud. I'm one of your hosts, Rob Myers, and welcome to RBTE V1. This is the first time the Carusos are hearing this. So this is going to be our exclusive video content. This is not audio. So if you're listening to us on audio, you're not really actually hearing this. So we're going to, from time to time, we're going to do some video only episodes, either with friends or the three of us. So the first one I thought would be kind of cool to do is a vinyl collection. But before I do that, we can see that there's three of us in three different, Earths, if you will. There's Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth 3, if you're a comic book fan like the rest of us. We've got Nick and Nico Caruso. So Nico, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm calling from work, which is rare for me, but it's actually kind of cool. There's good sound in here. There's good lighting and everything. Really excited to be doing these video things. V1. That's a cool name for it. V1.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool. Nick Caruso, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm good. I'm in my basement here where I feel safe and comfortable.
Yeah. He does. He
And where the
feels safe
vinyl
there.
the vinyl is merely an arm's length away from me. So I'm in
Awesome.
good shape today.
Now, a little peek behind the curtain. This is actually recorded after the main event. We were trying to set this up with our good friend from KISS Army Things podcast, Xander, and his brother. And then everybody's schedules kind of got out of sequence for a brief little moment. So the Carusos weren't able to show on this particular episode that you're getting ready to see. And Xander's brother, Jeb, was not able to be on the episode. So I talked with Nick and Nico and his brother, and everybody was like, yeah, why don't you guys just go ahead and do the episode? But because of technology, Nick and Nico get to participate a little bit in this. Nico vicariously through his father is going to say, oh yeah, that's the one I want to show.
Yeah, that's what he's going to do.
So this episode that you clicked on, this is the vinyl show and tell. So Xander and I treated this like, hey, why don't you come over to the house? We'll have some Gene Simmons Moneybag Soda, and we'll go through our KISS vinyl collection. So you'll hear that Xander had to talk me off the ledge, and the Carusos will watch this video as we explain it. So we're picking, like we do on the show, the 9. So Xander and I went through 9 of our favorite, shouldn't say favorite, vinyls that had a meaning to us, or we thought, man, this is just really cool. We want to do a little show and tell, like, hey, look at this KISS vinyl record I got. So I asked the Carusos to show one each so they get to participate in this. And right before we get into Xander and I's episode. So Nick, what are you showing for Nico? And Nico, do you have anything once he shows it?
Oh, yeah.
why you picked it?
I will say,
Are you ready?
so if you listen to this or watch this podcast, this will be no surprise to you at all. It's the Rock and Roll Over, the recent picture disc. Why I picked that one, even though it's recent, is this is my favorite KISS album. And me and my dad just started collecting vinyl in the last few years. So this was like one of the first big re-releases that I actually bought, that we actually got and acquired. We haven't opened it yet for various safety reasons, but this is what I pick. And it's cool because we all started collecting, us three, I think, now that we started doing the podcast, we're collecting things together, which is cool. We're going through a lot of these releases, and while we all might not be getting the same things, it's just been a really cool piece of this podcast that, is not seen. It's more for our friendship and brothership here. So that's why I chose the Raro picture disc from this year. Or last year, one of the two. Last year,
Yeah,
I think this came out this year, right?
I think it might have come out this year, but the
March?
Yeah.
pre-order was probably
Right.
last year.
You know what it was with this too? This was one of the last things to come out of the old KISS online store.
Yeah.
yeah.
Rob, if you remember, I think there was like where they shipped it, but you couldn't track it.
You couldn't track
It was
it.
during that transitionary stage where I got to be honest with you,
That was
the change has been great.
Yeah,
since they've gone over to the new format. I'm digging it. Like I will talk later what I ordered, but I'm already getting emails saying I'm in the routing thing, even though it's not going to ship for about 60 days, but don't worry, you're securely in our system. You'll be notified immediately when it ships. So it's a breath of fresh air from what I think we're used to.
Yeah.
For the last, at least for me, the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. I think early on in the podcast, we were complaining is probably the right word of like, man, especially the Destroyer box set was one of the big ones.
Yep.
Where
Yeah.
everybody that ordered on KOL was not getting it. Like it was weeks, and some people was even a month past release. So there were people that were like, I'm not ordering from KOL. So I think it took a little bit for KISS to kind of get, I shouldn't say KISS, for Universal to get the a right warehouse. So things have been pretty good. Like when the Revenge 30th anniversary came out, I was one of the first in like the vinyl Kiss My Wax community to be posting it. I thought I never get anything
That's cool.
early, so I
Yeah.
thought that was kind of cool. No,
We're
I was
waiting
really,
for Dubai.
Well,
that's
they don't
still-
have anything to do
still-
with that.
that's a
Unfortunately.
customs.
That's in custom. Dubai is still almost 2 years. We're 2 months away
Yeah.
from 2 years of the Dubai
My
purchase.
All right. Well,
Talk about lighting money to a
what's that saying?
Match.
Let the buyer beware or whatever
buyer-
it is.
yeah.
now
Buyer
saying, right?
beware. You signed a death warrant.
A fool and his money or whatever, you know.
real quick, Nick.
yeah.
What did the hype sticker say on the Rock and Roll Over?
It says
I had never seen it.
the 45th anniversary limited edition picture disc, even though it's really not a picture. Oh, it is a picture disc.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
I
the picture
forgot.
disc.
This is this thing is, I'm not so sure that this thing will ever be open, but who knows, Nick? Maybe we will.
cool. All right,
Maybe
sir,
we
what do
will.
you got?
Well, here's the thing, the whole vinyl thing has become an obsession of mine, but really up until about mid 2020 when we were in the throes of COVID, I'll be the first to admit I didn't have much vinyl. And during that downtime, it started a whole thing with me where I actually started recollecting Frank Sinatra albums, the reissues. And then I started thinking about all the essential rock albums that everybody must have. And Nick would laugh at me because invariably every day there'd be a box coming and it would be Back in Black. It would be the Police, Synchronicity. It would be just the Van Halen one, Fair Warning, just anything you think you got to have. But of course, Kiss was on my radar. And so behind me, I did track down Alive, which I had to have. Missed out on the 45th edition. So I got that.
Same.
I think it's a 2014 brand new off eBay. And the same thing with the Dress to Kill. I had that red colored vinyl in the cart and decided that I probably didn't need it. So, but for me, the thing that I've enjoyed most in this vinyl collecting thing is the off the soundboard releases, right? And
That's cool.
I am very, very in love with this Donington show.
I knew he was going to pick that.
As we talked
I
about.
wondered.
It was like what I would have guessed that.
Right.
It was
So-
up
and
there
so-
for me.
and so for me,
Top two or three.
It's really
Love
this
it.
because I love the sound. I love the color of the discs. This is just really special to me. We got the Des Moines one too, and I love that one too. But this is my favorite Kiss vinyl that I've gotten. And I know it's just in cardboard and it's plain, but the color of the discs, the color of the LPs, and the show itself, and what the reunion tour means to me is really special. So Kiss off the soundboard, Donington. Donington.
So I wasn't going to show one because I've
You
got
must.
the 9 with Xander, but I'll show this one. Oh wait, that's the Smothers Brothers. Never mind.
That's hysterical.
That's
The
okay.
Smothers
That's pretty
Brothers.
good, buddy.
I love the Smothers Brothers. So you're going to have to wait till, well, why don't we just do it right now? So what we're going to do is go over to our pre-recorded episode with Xander, where he and I are going to go through our 9 vinyl picks for the 9 vinyl show and tell. 3, 2, 1. So as you can see on the screen here, I've got my good friend Xander from Kiss Army Things podcast. And right at the top, the first thing we got to do is raise the money bag because I had to go out and go get one. So it's time to pop the top on this thing.
Absolutely.
And,
cheers. How's it going, man?
Going well. Glad you could do the show. Kind of
Absolutely.
impromptu. We've been kind of talking about it for a while, and I want to get the day that this is being recorded. This is October 6th, 2022. As you can kind of tell, we're sporting some wear here, which may or may not fit into the show later. So I'm assuming you got this at Walmart, or did you actually go to Walmart? Or did you have to get this off of eBay?
This was actually one that we got at Walmart at the Kiss Corner, probably on October 6th or 7th or 8th, or right when the album came out.
Yeah.
I got one, and my dad both got one, so we both had a Sonic Boom T-shirt, and we even got I think, what else did they have at the corner? I didn't get the M&Ms.
You did? I have a funny
later.
story. I think a funny story about the M&Ms. I bought 3 bags of M&Ms, and my wife thought I was crazy. I was trying to get all of the characters, and for some reason, Gene was unavailable. There was like 50 Pauls, but I had Paul, Eric, and Tommy, and I opened the first 2, ate those. I thought, well, I'll save, because I bought 2 of like the Eric the Catman ones, and I had sat it on a shelf for a while. Then I had moved some stuff and sat it in a box, and years go by, and I was like, whatever happened to that other bag of M&Ms I had? Then I had this fear of like, oh my gosh, there's mice and rats in the house or whatever, which luckily I didn't go that route. But I reached into this box and I pulled out the bag. I'm like, oh, it's good. It was nothing but powder inside. They had deteriorated, and I was like, and I ate 2 bags of these M&Ms. So I brought it to me. Yeah, I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen? So I showed my wife. She's like, get that out of the house, So I'm like, well, I could save it. She's like, no, you're not. But I bought the poster, and I've got this thing, which I put on Instagram. By the time that you see this, it will be past October. But did you get the Sonic Boom stickers? Did you get the Sonic Boom stickers? Who am I talking to?
These I actually got recently. I did not get these back in the day. These I actually found very, very recently. And hang on.
Oh, snap.
It's almost Halloween, so the Sonic Boom
now
face mask.
We have 2 Walmarts within a 5-minute drive from one another, and I drove to some other Walmarts. I never saw those.
Really?
In Ohio. Yeah.
I didn't either. I got this one recently as well. I got both of those things recently.
That's crazy.
But that's pretty funny.
Crazy awesome, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
what are we doing today, Rob? What are we doing?
So if you've clicked on this video, this is an idea I had. Xander had to talk me off of the ledge because I was like, let's go through everything. We didn't want it to be a 45-hour stream. So using the 9 like we like to do on our show.
Welcome to the 9. You may only choose 9 to move forward. No more, no less. The 9 is here.
We're picking, I would say, I didn't give a whole lot of parameters to it because I was wanting to treat this like this first video of like, hey, you come over to my house, I go over to your house, and let's just sift through our vinyl Kiss record collection. So since we do the 9 a lot here, all of our lists, we're going to do the 9 Kiss albums that we picked. I don't know what Xander has picked. He doesn't know what I've picked. So as long as Kiss was on the title somewhere, it's in fair game. If it's in vinyl and you can put it as a 33, I didn't think about 45. He could have pulled a 45 on this one. So, but he didn't. I didn't either.
No. Maybe we'll pull some out at the end if we can, if they're within reach or something. We'll see.
Mine might be. We'll have to see.
We'll see.
So this is going to be kind of cool. I'm kind of cheating. I've got one over my shoulder. It wasn't one that I picked, my double platinum back here, but thought it was a nice, eye candy. I was going to keep it as an Easter egg, but I just pointed out the Easter egg. So I don't think that that works as an Easter egg. Hey, don't look at that. So I kind of put mine. These aren't necessarily in favorite, like, oh, this is not my top 9 list, but these are just albums for whatever reason I kind of gravitated to. Maybe there's a story behind it, or this was just a unique pressing of it, or I just think it's cool. That's how I picked it. But I did pick from like, I wouldn't say least, but the last one is last for a reason, and the first is first for a reason. That's how I picked it. So there's not really any order in the middle, but that's how it is. Do you have anything to set up yours, or you just kind of want to get into it?
Actually, my process was very similar to yours. I was just kind of digging through and saying, what stands out to me, and like what brings back the memories and what gives me that, good feeling inside. And
yeah,
that's what it's all about. I mean, obviously, we're both collectors, so we buy stuff and then we put it up, and then we buy more stuff, and then we put it up. So this is a chance for us to just get it all out, and
And that's what that's the perfect thing. That was all what this show was about, is you put stuff away, and like you just pulling out the stickers. When was the last time you had the Sonic Boom stickers out to
exactly.
kind of, so
No
that's
one's
just what,
ever asked me about them before. You see how quick I was? I was like, oh my
yeah,
gosh.
right here. No, I do have
Right
the
here.
Sonic, I have the Sonic Boom poster, but I can't relatively get to that. So if you go to the Instagram page, you can see the
Oh, there you
poster.
go.
So I bought the poster and the CD and the stickers all in one shot. Then I think a week later I went to get the shirt because they might run out, and our
Yeah.
Walmart had them forever for the longest time. So
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, let's just go guest first on the show, Xander from Kiss Army Things podcast. If I haven't said already, I know that I have. So what is up for your first vinyl you would like to share?
9,
So the first record I decided to choose is actually the first record I ever bought for myself, period dot. I thought that would be kind of fitting to start this
Nice.
off. So the very first record that I ever purchased for myself was Love Gun. And this was back in 2009. I was a freshman in high school. I had actually just started collecting Kiss, but not vinyl. I don't think I had ever seen maybe one record in my entire life. This is before vinyl sort of made the comeback that it has in the past, maybe like 5 or 10 years. So back in the day, I had never really seen a record before. And I was with a buddy of mine. We went into this head shop that sells, CDs and T-shirts and all this stuff. And so they had some records on the wall. And as soon as I walked in, you know how Kiss fans are. You can spot a Kiss logo even if it's like this small, a mile away.
Right,
So
exactly.
I walk in and my eyes immediately to the wall, and right up there on the wall is this copy of Love Gun, and I was just like absolutely floored. I was like, I can't believe I'm looking at a Kiss record. And again, I know I sound kind of ridiculous for all those people who've been collecting records forever, but I was, especially then, a young kid, so I was so ecstatic to see this. And so it was only $7, and
Oh, wow.
I had a $10 bill in my wallet, so it was like it was meant to be.
That's meant to be.
I had a $10 bill in my Kiss wallet, so it was meant to be. So this record, even though it's it's extremely beat up, I don't even think, let's see, when I got it, it didn't even have a sleeve. It was just the record just shoved inside the jacket.
Gotcha.
But you know what? I didn't care. It was a Kiss record. It meant everything to me, and it was something that to me was like almost like a scroll that was lost to time. I was looking at something and holding something from 1977, and being a younger fan, that was just kind of unheard of. I really didn't have any 70s things, in my collection. So this was crazy.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
remember not even having a turntable to play it on. I just had the record, and it was like, as long as I have it, that's okay. And eventually we did get a turntable, and to hear I Stole Your Love for the first time just on vinyl, it just felt magical. It felt perfect. It reminded me of the opening scene in Detroit Rock City when Mrs. Bruce she sits down and she relaxes, she goes to drink the wine, and it just
Plainer
I Stole Your Love.
Carpenters.
Yes, the Carpenters. Yes, exactly. So yeah, that was kind of fun for Jeb and I. But that's why I am showcasing this copy of Love Gun. I think it's a first pressing. I should have double checked, but I know it's old.
Yeah.
But that's why I've chose to show this one. It was my very first record ever, and it actually still plays flawlessly. It plays
Oh,
great.
wow.
Yeah.
And that's saying something with it just getting jammed into the record sleeve. I've seen some of those, and my wife's like, "Oh, you don't have this one." I pulled out. I'm like, I don't have this one either, unless it was a placeholder, like, oh, I'll get it because I may never come across it again. But there's a couple I've just kind of like, She goes, "Don't you want that?" I'm like, "Yeah, but not in this condition, and not for that much money either."
Yeah.
So,
But it's funny because I do have a 2014 re-release copy that plays, I'm sure, flawlessly. But I always go back to this one, even though it's the one that's the most beat up and the most rugged looking. It was my first, so that's the one I always choose to play.
you never forget your first kiss.
You never forget your first kiss, and Love Gun was my first kiss. But
That's a
I'm
great one.
interested to hear about yours. What do you got to share?
So, the thing I was telling you off mic was that some of the first Kiss albums I had, due to a former relationship I used to have, went into a certain bin to be destroyed. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
La,
that's
la, la,
why.
la, la, la,
Yeah. So I don't have any of my first. So when I remarried and, starting to, at that point, I'm like, I've lost all my vinyl, whatever. I'm not going to get back into it. The one thing that came out of Kiss 2020 Goodbye was for whatever reason, I got the bug and I bought Hot in the Shade 30th anniversary. And all of a sudden, all the synapses just went, you know what? You want to collect vinyl again. So I have bought a crap ton of vinyl in that short time. So every time somebody says like, boo, Kiss 2020 Goodbye, I was like, that kind of got me back in vinyl in a big way. And my wife's like, oh my gosh. But so the first thing that I'm going to show is it's nothing overly crazy. It's Rock and Roll Over. And I did a little bit extra homework. I've got a little, stamp and stuff. So this is a Canadian pressing of Rock and Roll Over that I found at a flea market. And the thing that I thought was kind of cool about it, it was actually backwards. And there was this, I'm probably not going to be able to show it just right here. I'll probably take some pictures and put it up there, but there's this little yellow sticker
Oh, yep.
of the pressing plant information, and what it says: manufactured by Quality Records Limited for Columbia House Division of Canada.
Hmm.
So this was a Columbia House pressing that was done in Canada. So this is like one, and I just got this year, probably February, March, or something like that. I think I paid $18 for it, which I didn't think was horrible.
No.
It was just one of those first, like, it's not like a Scandinavian, vinyl or something like that. But I was like, huh, I have a Canadian pressing of something. And this sounds so warm. I think it actually sounds a little bit better than the 2014. And I do have an original pressing. The original pressing probably would sound pretty good, but it's a little beat up. But there's just a quality to this one, and that's no pun on the quality company that did the vinyl, but it just has such a warm sound. So hearing like Baby Driver on this, hearing Peter's vocals, it just sounds. This is one of my favorite versions of Rock and Roll Over is pressing. So something I thought was like, Canadian pressing. I just got because it's Canadian pressing. I put it on a turntable. I was like, ooh, I like that one. So that's what I wanted to start off with is the Rock and Roll Over.
That is really cool. I do have a question. So on the outer where is it red or pink?
It is red.
It is red. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes I see copies of Rock and Roll Over where it's a little more red, or it's a little bit more faded, or maybe it just looks a little bit more pink as opposed to red. But I was
Yeah.
curious as to what that was.
Yeah. So that's mine. Like I said, nothing really big, but I thought it was kind of cool that I have a Canadian pressing, and I realized as I went through, I think I have another one in here somewhere, but that wasn't the reason why I got that one. So that was my first one. Wasn't really big and memorable, but Rock and Roll Over, you can't go wrong with Rock and Roll Over.
It's a perfect album. So you've only been recollecting for like what, 2 years, a year and
2
a half?
years, yeah. Now I did have a small collection of records that a friend of mine gave me from his. Like, I had an old beat up copy of Lick It Up and Animalize, Peter Criss, that he had duplicates of stuff. So I had about 9 records for for quite a while, but officially getting back into the vinyl game
For
was
sure.
2009.
Pretty cool. All right. So the second record I wanted to showcase here is my picture disc copy of Crazy Nights. I know you guys just recently did your anniversary episode on Crazy Nights, so I thought, well, that's a pretty fitting second record to show. But it's funny because even though this is obviously, I'm trying to get to where there's no glare, but I love this album and I love Crazy Nights, but I actually forgot that I had this, which is kind of funny because how could you forget that you had such an awesome record?
That is awesome.
And so I recently, because it was the anniversary of Crazy Nights, and whenever there's an anniversary, I always love to, pull that album out and jam it. So I was looking through my Crazy Nights, going for my, 2014 re-release, and I saw the picture disc, and I thought, oh, Wow, that's really cool. And it's funny when you get to the point in collecting where you have kind of so much stuff that you look back and you go, "Oh, wow,
I didn't
that's
know I
really
had
cool."
that. Yeah.
I would buy that again if I could. No, so I figured that'd be cool to show. And I actually last week and a few days ago was jamming to this, and I don't know if it was just because I hadn't heard the album in full in a while, or if I was just in a certain mood. But this particular version sounded really, really good. And sometimes picture discs don't
I
always
was just
sound the
going to
best.
ask.
Sometimes they really don't sound. And maybe it's just my speakers because Jeb actually did give me his old speakers, so I do have a better setup, better speakers. But for whatever reason, I was listening to it like this sounds oddly good because I mean it is a very pop sounding album and it is on a little bit on the thin side,
Mhm.
but the way it was coming through on this was just fantastic, and so it just stood out to me. Again, I'm not sure if it was just the moment or what it was, but usually picture discs don't sound good. This one sounded really, really good.
Yeah, I've heard probably more into the negative side of picture discs. Yeah, they're great to look at, they're great to have on the wall, but they sound horrible. And I've heard like, but there are a few outliers out there. And I can't honestly say I've heard that, oh, that Crazy Nights one is that, but I actually that's one thing I don't have in my collection is any type of a picture disc.
Mm.
I sat on a not Sonic Boom, excuse me, Psycho Circus picture disc at a local record store for like week after week. I would see it like, oh, I'll get it next time. Oh, I'll get it next time because I want to get this thing. And
Mhm.
finally, by the time I decided to go get it, it was gone. And I was like, I kind of wish I would have picked it up. So
Was
I'm
it
kind
was
of
it was it official? Psycho Circus?
I don't think this was official. It was
Okay, I was gonna say I don't think I've ever heard of an
yeah.
official one.
So that was close to a picture disc as I ever got was this, bootleg, whatever you want to call it. But
Still
this
cool though.
record store was kind of known for having hard to get stuff, overseas stuff, and then some bootleg stuff would filter in from time to time. So, but all right,
Nice,
for
that's really
my
cool.
next one, this was probably one of the earliest Kiss albums that I could, you know, growing up in the 80s, I knew who Kiss was, but to be at a basketball game when I was in high school and the basketball players would put in a cassette tape back in the cassette tape days and, warm up to it before the game, before the pep band would start playing, they were playing this album quite a bit. So this was one of the holes in my vinyl collection where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to run across this in the wild. I
Hmm.
paid a little bit for it, but it's smashes, thrashes, and hits. So
Yeah.
this is another BMG version, which I heard some of the records, the uh, record companies or the, hey, tape a penny to this, the record club. That's what I'm trying to say.
Mm.
Some of those are kind of hard to find in the latter part of the 80s and 90s when vinyl wasn't really being produced for store usage. The only way you were getting vinyl was through a, clubhouse service. So a local record store, they only are open on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So on Wednesdays, they put their flip in, and if you catch it early enough, you could say, "Oh, can you hold that for me? I'll be in on Saturday. I'll be whatever." And the guys, I was like the second person to chime in on it. One guy's like, "Oh, I can be there Saturday," and I'm like, "I can be there Friday." And he's like, "First one to get here gets it." And I was able to
Wow.
snag this and got home. My wife's like, "How much you end up spending?" I was like, I don't want to tell you. It's just shy of $100, but but still, to be able to get that, that's just one of those things that I was like, is it a favorite of mine? I don't know if it's a favorite, but there's just something about that time frame of, you know, and this is like the second time I'd ever heard Eric Carr sing. I always had assumed he sung, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And, when Hot and Shade was my first album, so I thought, oh, he sings Beth. That's the guy that sings Beth. And I later found out early in my Kiss time, like, no, that's not the guy. So when I think of Beth in my head, it's always Eric Carr's vocals. So even to this
Wow.
day, Peter's vocals still sound odd just because the two cassettes I had growing up were Hot in the Shade and Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits. So this version of a lot of these songs, even though some are kind of cringy in their mix, that's just how the versions of those songs that I have. So I had to include this one.
That's a really cool, unique perspective that you hear Eric Carr's or you hear Beth and you immediately think, Eric Carr's vocals. But yeah, that's really cool. I never thought about that. So Smashes was actually one of the first albums that Jeb and I had too.
Mm.
because we were, you're an 80s fan, we're 90s fans, so it was kind of one of the newer albums at the time. But that's really cool. So that one was a regular standard black vinyl.
Yep, regular standard black vinyl. Nothing else special about it. It did come with its inner sleeve, so all of the packing material is in here. So yeah,
That's awesome.
yep.
I think I think that's a pretty good price. I mean, obviously, Kiss fans we'll pay all kinds of money for. Kiss
Are you
records,
trying
but
to rationalize like I'm not paying $2.50 for a soda, $80 for a record? Sure, why not?
let's do it. Yeah, plop.
7,
So this next record I'm going to show is really just to show off, I guess, at this point, because it's a sealed copy of Paul Stanley's solo album from 1978. And we recently just did our, I'm trying to get without the glare. So we recently just did our solo album review episode, and Paul's has always been my favorite of the solo records. I just felt like from top to bottom, it was a solid album.
Mhm.
And it's always interesting to me when people say that Paul wasn't a strong musician or wasn't a strong songwriter. And I always hear these things about, how Paul and Gene were never really musically inclined. And I do see where people are coming from in a way, but when you listen to this record, it puts all that to shame because, I mean, obviously, yes, he does have people like, Bob Kulick and all these great people on his album, but this is a Paul Stanley album. So
Yeah.
to me, this is my favorite of the four. And so to see a sealed copy from 78 in 2022, it's kind of crazy. I don't really have a whole lot of sealed records, so I figured I would show this one. The other one that I have is Dynasty, a sealed first pressing of
nice.
Dynasty from 79. But this one, I think I got a little bit up north from where we are. There's a record store that he pretty much only sells collector grade records. You're not going to find something with a bunch of scratches or find something with a damaged spine or that's falling apart. And if you do, it's going to be up front in a clearance bin that clearly says, hey, this is like, just, $1, $2, because he sells, high quality stuff. So Jeb and I, not always, but every now and again, we'll make a trip up that way and see what he's got. And so I walked in and blinked twice when I saw the word sealed. I don't know if you can see it right there, but it says
Oh,
sealed.
yeah.
And I was like, wait, what? So I was like, I don't care how much that costs. That's coming home with me.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those too you look at with it sounds dumb to say, but in the action figure community, people are like, oh, I'm a in-box collector and all that type of stuff. And I was always, I want to get my toys out. I want to play with them, even with the records. But to have something that's that old from 78 or, even older, having a first pressing of the first Kiss album sealed, the decades that have gone by with that, for whatever reason, never being bought, or somebody bought it and then that record store gets it and no one took the time to open it for whatever reason, you just go, why didn't you open it? But now you have this thing that's not been opened and been touched by human hands since it was slid in its jacket at the pressing plant.
Yeah.
Whenever. It's kind of cool. Some people may roll their eyes at that, but I just find a lot of nostalgia and just the history that record has traveled still completely sealed.
Absolutely. And people do ask me, I think I did a video on the channel one time and I got a message, and I've even showed it to people who come over to the house. I show them and they're like, well, why don't you open it? Why don't you listen to it? And I'm like, well, number one, it's sealed from 78, but number two, I have 4 to 6 other copies of it. I think I have 4 or 5 copies of this album. So I have plenty of options to choose from. I'm going to leave that one sealed.
Yeah.
Because you never know. Somebody else might want that one day. And, I bought it from somebody and then I'll sell it to somebody else and it'll stay sealed until somebody wants to open it. That's their decision.
I almost pulled it, but my only sealed copy is Monster, the original logo before they changed it. So the copy of Monster I got was after it was changed. And again, this year I found a sealed copy of the original Monster and I was like, I gotta have it. So I almost unsealed it. I'm like, no, I'm only unsealing it for whatever reason. So that one has stayed sealed and I'll probably just keep it that way. It's probably not expensive or anything like that, but just that thing of like, oh, they repressed this rather quickly and now I've got both versions of it. So I thought, hey, why not?
For sure.
All right, so I'm up next. Yes.
Correct.
So early in my, this is going to go in tandem with what you showed recently, but this is a newer press. As I was getting back into the vinyl bug, I went to my local Walmart where I was like, oh, I've seen records at Walmart, and picked up the splattered version of
Ooh, that looks
look,
amazing.
yeah. So this was like one of my, I do have another, had another colored vinyl before this one, but as far as the Kiss color being, you know, hot in the shade being blue, I was like, okay, I think I'm getting the bug for wanting to get some colored variants. And I've heard people say, oh, because the colored version sounds so much better than, you know. But this was
Yeah.
like one of those first things, like Walmart exclusive, where I was like, I gotta get it. And I don't think I've actually played this one yet. Obviously have opened it and everything like that, but thought that was really kind of cool. Still got the, you know, Walmart sticker on it and everything, but I thought that was just cool to see it, and then seeing the picture of it and going, all right, does it really look like that? And I think it looks better than what they projected to. So these went quick, but my Walmart was sitting on a truckload of them for a while, and then they started kind of jumping in price a little bit. But yeah, so that's Love Gun, the what is this, the 2021 version, I believe.
You know, I think I may have that. I'm not sure.
2020 reissue. Yep.
For sure.
Yeah.
They did a Walmart exclusive for, what was it? Destroyer Resurrected, I think.
Resurrected, yeah. Yeah.
That was pretty cool. Yeah. What a great way to get extra, you know, Kiss fans extra money. Just re-release the same album, but make it somehow, just splatter some paint on it, or, you know, do this with it, and we'll buy it.
We'll eat it up. Yeah.
Absolutely. You know what? I might have to go back and check, because I want to say I bought that variant, but now I'm not so sure. I know I got the Destroyer Resurrected exclusive, but I'll have to go back and check that one out.
6.
All right, what you got? What's your next one?
The next one I want to show is actually pretty cool. This one, I think I may have shown it on the show. So if anybody's seen this episode and you've already seen it, sorry, but this is a copy of Destroyer from 1980 from Japan.
Ooh.
So I'll try and see if I can get it in the camera here, but
Let me get you soloed here.
You can see the Japanese lettering.
Oh yeah.
Right here. And it even says made in Japan. So I don't have any other Japanese pressings of any Kiss record. So this one is pretty special. I do have a couple other copies of Destroyer, but naturally this is like my favorite because it is a Japanese pressing. And it came with, I'll see if I can get it out here. It comes with this little insert that has the album art on it, but it's black and white.
See, they do something very similar for their CD booklets. You'll get the normal booklet, then you'll get a black and white booklet, and all the lyrics, you have, I think, English lyrics, then you also will have Japanese lyrics. Is that the same way? Yeah.
Correct. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
And believe it or not, I got this at church.
Really?
I was given this by somebody at church. We were sitting in the pew, and somebody goes, hey, psst. And I was like, yeah. And they go, I know you like Kiss. I got something in the car for you after the service. So I went out, and they said, here's this copy of Destroyer that my husband and I got when we were on our anniversary or honeymoon or whatever back in Japan in 1980. And sometimes when people tell me Kiss stories about their past that are non-Kiss fans, they always get their dates wrong or their years wrong or the tour or whatever. And they were correct. This is a Japanese pressing that came out I did the research, from 1980. Yeah. And yeah, so it's pretty special. And I don't know if it's just because it was kept in such good condition.
It looks great.
But you can see here that the cover is very vibrant.
Yeah, I was noticing that. At first, when you pulled it up, I thought it was a record flat or something like that. And I was like, oh, you pulled a fast one. It's a record flat. But that looks great, man, even through the computer screen.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised because, like I said, I mean, I have a few other copies, and I think one of them's a 2014. I mean, it looks good because it's 2014, but I was just really surprised at the quality of this cover. But I don't know if I've actually listened to this. I just kind of kept it nice and, you know, protected and put it up. But I wanted to bring it out for this episode because, again, this is the episode where if you're going to show it,
right.
Up. So there it is. There's my copy of Destroyer from Japan.
It's funny you say that, some people that are fans or they're, oh, I got this Kiss, record in 1980. As a Kiss fan that's well steeped in like the knowledge and stuff, do you do that thing where you're like 1980, you mean 1976, but okay. And then you go to find it and you're like, oh crap, it is 1980.
So when it comes with fans doing that or people doing that, it really depends on the person
Yeah.
because there's two types of people. There's the person that thinks they know everything and they don't, and they act all arrogant and like, oh yeah, I saw Kiss on this tour, you know, and I'm like, okay, well, first of all, Gene, wasn't doing this on that tour, or they didn't play this song, or these outfits, or there's always some hole in their story that, depending on their attitude, yeah, I will call them out and say, actually, you are incorrect. You did not see Kiss on that tour, but da 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 da. But then there's the people that are they just happen to forget. I was at work one time and somebody was like, "Oh, you like Kiss? Yeah, I remember watching Gene." Breathe Fire and Spit Blood back in 1985 when I was in high school. And I was like, they weren't wearing makeup. I didn't say it out loud, but I was like, obviously they weren't wearing makeup in 85 and Gene wasn't spitting blood in 85. But this person obviously was just being nice and just telling the story. So I said, great. Because you know what? That person did see Kiss.
Yeah.
They did see Gene Breathe Fire and Spit Blood. It just probably was a few years earlier.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna bother them with that because they're being nice. But there are some people that just for some reason they act unnecessarily arrogant, and I don't like those people. So I will, respectfully, be like,
Well,
actually, just so you are aware and you don't mess up again in the future, this is correct.
Because another Kiss fan, not nice like me, is going to do it even worse.
Oh yeah. No, somebody out there is just gonna wait to pounce. But anyway, so going back to the Destroyer, it's funny because it's funny that one was the one that I got in church because that's the one where people think if you spin it backwards on Flaming Youth, it says, if one world would listen, we need him, or in some reference to Satan. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, people.
Please stop.
Oh, and it's funny, my wife and I were just we're going back and we're rewatching that 70s show.
Oh,
and there was an episode recently in season 1 where they pull out the Destroyer record and they're talking about how it's the devil's music and they're bringing Satan in their home. And every time it comes on, I just sit back and just laugh. And it's funny because here we are in 2022 and I'm getting that record from somebody in church, from my fellow congregation member. It's funny.
That's cool. The next one is Hot in the Shade, for no other reason than it's Hot in the Shade. It's my first Kiss album. I love this thing. This is a Columbia House edition, and for no other reason than I had to have it. The memories that I have on our show, this was my first Kiss moment. I got the cassette tape, back in the winter of '89, and fully became a Kiss fan. So when the opportunity came to jump on this vinyl through Columbia House, I had to get it, and didn't realize how hard it was to get Hot in the Shade back in the day, especially on vinyl. I know there's some other, pricier ones, but it wasn't that for me at the time. I had to get this one. So this is one I kind of hold near and dear as being, my entry point into the band. So again, like I said, it's nothing overly special other than it's in the feels here, and I'll play this just all the time. It's my wife and I's wedding songs forever is, from this album. So I love it even more. So there you go.
That's funny that you just said that because my wife and I, our first dance at our wedding was to Forever.
That's cool. We walked out of the church to that. I remember speaking, being a church, her mother going, do we have to put Kiss in the program? Because we had listed, some of the songs that were in there. And I was like, what if we put Paul Stanley and Michael Bolton? She was like, I love Michael Bolton. So I was like, oh, okay, that works. But that was our that was our walking out to the church to that one. I just recently picked up the 45 of that, so I'm going to mount that with my wife and I's wedding photo. We just celebrated our 15-year anniversary, so just kind of coming full circle around with that album. So, nice. Like I said, for no more than what it is, where some people fall on Hot in the Shade, that's just one that I had to have. It was early in my Kiss collection.
I think it's an underrated album. I understand that the album, has, 15 songs and some of them are filler. I know that the production isn't, the best, but to me, those songs, Rise to It, Prisoner of Love, what's the Paul, King of Hearts,
King of Hearts is
Silver
unbelievable.
Spoon, Love Me
Yeah.
to Hate You is fantastic.
Fantastic, yeah.
I mean, I get where some fans are coming from, but I feel like if people would just go back and re-listen to it and put all that aside, you will see what a great Kiss album that is. I'm with you. I think it's a great album. And the only copy I have is a 2014 re-release because you're right. It's a hard one to find. Older pressings, especially.
Yeah, yeah. And the only other copy I have is the 30th anniversary. I've been trying to find a 2014, but trying to get a hold of a 2014 is next to impossible. Scrolling through eBay going, man, I'll keep my BMG Columbia
Yeah.
House version.
Yeah, for sure. I'll have to see if I can find another copy because I'd like to have an older pressing of that album. But yeah, you're right. It's funny because you have the older pressing, can't find a new one. I have the new one, and I can't find an old one.
The old one.
So we'll have to see if I can find one for you. You find one for me.
Ditto.
But so anyway, moving on to the next album I wanted to showcase. This is actually a newer release of an older album. So this is Double Platinum, the 2020 Picture Disc edition.
Oh,
So,
nice.
But now, funny story about this one, not so funny. So my lung collapsed in 2020, and I was in the hospital for a while. And while I was in the hospital, I was hopped up on some good stuff. I mean, I was out of it, and they had just announced the Double Platinum Picture Disc, and I barely remember just in a fog being on my phone in the hospital and just immediately adding that to my cart, not worrying about how much was in my bank account, not worrying about nothing, just again, just being hopped up on whatever I was on, just add that to cart, pre-order it right now. And I forgot about it because again, I was, out of it. So fast forward to when, the pre-order is actually being shipped and it's being delivered. I'm sitting at home in the bed and I get this package and I'm like, what is this? I can't imagine what this is. And so I open it up and boom, there it is, the picture disc for Double Platinum. And it all comes back. Oh, yes, I remember I pre-ordered this and totally forgot all about it. And I pre-ordered it. Obviously, again, I was out of it, but I was like, this is one album I don't have a copy of. I've been really trying hard to get one copy of everything. I think at this point, Kiss Alive 4 is the only one that where if I had Kiss Alive 4, I could say that my Kiss vinyl collection is quote unquote complete.
Yeah.
But I don't have it yet. So, but at the time I was like, okay, so Double Platinum, gotta have it, get it. So it comes, I'm super excited. I may go ahead and just show off what it looks like because it's too cool not to. So this is what it looks like.
That's awesome. Maybe get you soloed here.
Yeah, there we go. So it has the faces on it. You can turn it any which way and it works. But it has the colors on it, the red, the green, the blue, and the purple. So I thought this was a really sweet release that they did. And I bought it thinking, hey, this is one record I don't have a copy of. I need to get it. Turns out I already did have a copy of Double Platinum and just hadn't listened to it in a while. So, but now I have two copies. And of course, it is the gatefold. So you open it up and
embossed.
It's embossed. Nice. And this was actually, I mentioned earlier about how when I bought Love Gun, that was the first record I ever bought. And before that, I had only seen one record. This was it. Or, well, not this one, but a copy of Double Platinum. I think I was like maybe 7 or 8. And when you're 7 or 8, seeing a copy of Double Platinum all shiny and embossed,
oh,
and
yeah.
gatefold, it was like, oh, you just hear the angelic chorus. So to have a picture disc copy from 2020 is pretty sweet. I need to go back and listen to this because I actually do. When I found out I had an older pressing from 78, I was like, well, that one's cool because it's older. So I'm going to jam that one. So I really can't give a review as far as whether this one sounds better or worse being a picture disc or not. I can't really tell, but just aesthetically, it's an awesome album. And what a funny story because that was a crazy time.
So I wanted to ask, did you have 2 of the picture disc or you just had another copy of Double Platinum that you had a hole to fill in your Double Platinum, or they both picture discs?
It was an older copy of Double Platinum, and I just totally spaced it and thought that I didn't, I was like, oh, I don't have this. And so I wanted to get the picture disc to at least say I had one copy of Double Platinum.
Gotcha.
Turns out I already had one, so now I have two. One of them is the picture disc.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm the same way of going, all right, I think I've got one of about everything. In some cases it's 3 or 4 or whatever, but
Yep. That's
I don't have it to show on this one. But getting Greatest Kiss, I started going, all right, I got the Greatest Kiss on that Galaxy vinyl. So now my mind's going, you wanted the best, you got the best. Like I don't need that one. I need a live 4, but yeah.
It's funny you mentioned Greatest Kiss because when they announced that at the time, I can't remember what it was, if it was the Revenge or the Creatures box or whatever they were selling at the time. I think I had just purchased something else, and so when it came to Greatest Kiss, I just couldn't swing it. Didn't have the cash at that time, and I really regret it because I kind of do. When I saw how cool that record looked, I was like, oh, that would have been really cool to have. So I kind of am, I kind of regret not getting that one. So if I see one pop up, I may have to snag it if it's for a good price. But you did get the Greatest Kiss?
I did get the Greatest Kiss, yeah. Maybe as we're wrapping up, I'll pull that one.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. It was in my original pile. I'm like, yeah, there's some other stuff I'd rather have. So it left the 9. It was actually the 10. If we were doing some honorable mentions, maybe we'll pull that back up. So
Right
this one, I got the non-makeup cover, was the first version of this album that I got. And I was like, why did you reshoot that cover? And with this box set coming out, I could not have my original pressing of Creatures of the Night.
That's awesome.
Love this album. We have not reviewed this album yet, so I'll keep my thoughts and opinions, but it's very high up on my list. Spoiler.
That's
but
funny.
Yeah, 82. This was one, I have a 2014 was the first version. And I think I got this one recently, like over the summer, maybe last summer. I think I actually picked this up, but I thought I'm not going to find an original pressing. I thought if I can get a hold of that would be pretty cool. And it was one of those moments walking through the record store where I was just like, and my wife's like, what's wrong? And I was like, Creature. She's like, I thought you were dying or something. She's like, don't do that.
I thought you were dying.
I was like, I think I am. She's like, that blue record, don't you already have that? I'm like, yeah. Well, why? But it's the first pressing of the album. So
she's like, oh my gosh.
No, I gotcha. Yeah. So yeah. Again, that's another one of those, just the typical black, but yeah, just
I don't think I've ever seen. Maybe Jed has a copy. I don't know, but I know I don't have a first pressing of that. That's pretty awesome. I have a 2014, but that's pretty sweet, man. So when did you get that one?
I got that. This is 2022, 21. Last summer. Yeah. Last summer. We're on just vacation into a record store I hadn't been to. Cause you're probably like me, start going to the same record store. You start flipping through his stuff and you're like, I've seen everything here. So trying to branch out a little bit, I came across that and was just like, oh.
I cannot believe that you saw an original pressing just out in the wild like that.
Out in the wild. Yeah. And I'll see people, if you're probably on the Kiss My Wax group, people like, oh, I went to my local record store and I found the first pressing of, Hotter Than Hell. And you're like, how are people finding things like this? I've got a 2014 and I'm fine, but to be able to find Creatures, I was like, okay, that was kind of one of my grail things. If I could get a hold of something like that.
That's pretty sweet. So moving on to my next one here. I'm not even sure what number we're at here, but mine actually is kind of a throwback to yours a little bit, one of your earlier ones. So I'm also showcasing my copy.
Nice.
Of Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits. And this one is, in particular,
the gatefold.
The gatefold, and which also means that it is the picture disc
Picture
version.
disc.
So there's that. And I thought it was very odd that on the back they chose to use an image from 76.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, why not just use something from the Crazy Nights tour or something before? But I guess this album does have stuff from both this era, the current at the time era, and Originals Kiss. So I guess it is fitting in that way. But this is another one that I purchased up at that record store that only sells collector grade vinyl. And this is one that I didn't even know they did a picture disc release of. So to see
had
it,
you shown that on
what?
on the chat? Have you shown that on your channel before? Because I want to say that was the first that I've seen somebody open it. And I knew there was a picture disc of it, but I hadn't seen. Maybe I don't know if it's
I
another
don't
shot.
think I've shown this on the show before. I don't
Okay,
think I have. I think I posted about it on the I think it was on Facebook at one point in time. But I
maybe
never
that's where I
posted
saw it.
about it or saw it on the show. But yeah, no, it is pretty sweet. It kind of gives you like it goes through history a little bit there. I don't know. There's a big glare, but it's still just
That's
really
coming through.
cool. Very well done, very well packaged, and I'm actually one of the fans that loves the two new songs on this
I
album.
do too. I do too.
I know for some fans it just rubs them the wrong way, and I don't bring it up too often to most fans, but man, do I love Let's Put the X in Sex. I know it's a ridiculous song, but for whatever reason, the energy that it carries, Paul's vocal performance,
Mhm.
it hits. And I think You Make Me Rock Hard is a solid song too. I mean, they're
See,
both
I'm on the
total
other
80s.
side of that. I think I like You Make Me Rock Hard just a little bit more than X and
Okay.
Sex, because I think that is the order I saw them on MTV. I saw You Make Me Rock Hard, then maybe a month or so later they were just showing random videos rather than, because I know I caught that on like Headbangers Ball premiere or something like that, and that I had
Okay.
missed, because I was taping MTV, quite a bit back in those days. And I remember going, "Oh, that's a cool song." That was right on the cusp of me becoming a Kiss fan. Was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool."
And then on the back of it here, it has the complete discography up until that point, and it even has the I'm trying to get my finger over here, the
Cre-
VHS tapes that were released, the home videos.
yeah.
That's
And
pretty
there's
cool.
Creatures Unmasked in '85 when they decided, "Hey, Bruce is in the band. Let's reshoot the cover." And I'm like, "Why not reshoot the cover of Animalize and not, have to
There
take
you
out
go,
Mark St. John?
Animalize.
Animalize, I would have just redone that rather than redo Creatures, the only album to feature Eric Carr in makeup, and like, we're gonna put Bruce Kulick on it. Nothing against Bruce, that's great. And now that's an album that's on my short list to try and find an unmasked version. I've got it on CD, but to try and find the unmasked Creatures, you're
Mm.
gonna pay up the wazoo for that thing.
I think I may have a copy of the Unmasked. I'm not
I'll
sure.
be right over. Where do you keep it?
I have to double check. But Smashes was, I think I mentioned this earlier, was one of the first CDs that Jeb and I had as a kid. It was one of the newer releases at the time, so it was one that you would always see in
Mhm.
Walmarts and Best Buys and Kmart's back when Kmart was still around. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I figured I would showcase my Smash Trash and Hits as well.
That's
So
awesome.
I was saying earlier that I had just a few records left over. This was one that I found when I thought, like, when my wife and I were going through yard sales and stuff like that. I was just flipping through records, and I found an early pressing of The Elder, and this one comes with, let me solo myself here.
Is it a clear
This
sleeve?
It's the clear sleeve, yeah.
Oh, I've got that too. That's so dope.
Yeah. And I love it just for that. And it always just baffled the mind that the track sequence is all out of whack.
Oh yeah.
But there was just something about, finding the album in the wild. You got it too. And then just that clear sleeve, and becoming a Kiss fan in '89 when I did, this was one of the albums, like The Elder. This is the album nobody talks about. So the hype for me trying to find this in '89, '90 was something like I was trying to find cassettes or CDs, whatever I could get a hold of. So remember when I got the first CD and remember playing it, or first cassette rather, and just like going on this journey with this album and going, what am I listening to? And I must have played it a million times. So this is one I go back to quite a bit, but finding this one at a garage sale, I can't even tell you what I paid for it. It was very low, but when I bought it, I thought I was getting away with something from the guy, because it was very low, like $5-7. I remember telling
Oh
my
yeah.
wife, "Do you know how rare this album is?" I don't know how how rare this is, but the information I've got from this, it's 81, first pressing from Apogee Record Manufacturing. So
So what's your track listing on yours?
the track listing on the back of mine will read Just a Boy, Odyssey, Only You, Under the Rose, Dark Light, A World Without Heroes, The Oath, Mr. Blackwell, and I.
Okay,
So
that's the one I have too. So this is the intended track list, right? This tells the complete story, right?
I believe, yes.
I believe
Yeah.
this is the order in which it goes from the boy sort of going through his his journey of he's feeling insecure, he's not feeling like he's the chosen one, and then the order of the rose tells him that he's the chosen one, and then you
Yeah.
meet Mr. Blackwell, and then finally he at the end
Escapes from the island and
has the confidence to believe in me or believe in himself. So yeah, I think this is the intended track listing,
list.
correct?
Yeah,
Because
correct.
the CD one's wild, where it has the oath at the
Oath.
beginning.
Yep.
I don't really mind, but I think I like the intended order better.
So do I. I think I know we're pulling at loose threads with the Elder, but I feel it tells more of a cohesive story where you could sit back, and even some soundtrack albums that I have, you can tell like, okay, this is where dialogue would be that would fill this gap. So you could sit there and go, okay, this is probably just a few scenes later, and your imagination can kind of wander with it. So yeah, I like that sequence.
And then I think even there's a couple, like at the end of Under the Rose, I think there's the beginning of Dark Light.
Yeah.
And when you listen to the CD, or because when the album came out, it was the other order with the oath first.
Yep.
And you listen to it, and then you get to Under the Rose, and you hear a little bit of Dark Light, but Dark Light isn't the next song.
No.
And it's like it's so wild. So that's why I prefer this album, because yeah, it does feel a little bit more cohesive in that way. That's really cool. I love The Elder.
So do I.
I think it's great.
I got one of the 2020 pressings. I didn't get the picture disc, but I got the one with the hand and then the lenticular cover slip. So that's pretty cool.
That is awesome. See, I missed out on the vinyl, but I did get that really cool T-shirt with the blue, and it had Gene and Paul on it with Japanese lettering.
And I got the hat instead.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
the Elder hat. So
that was fun. That was cool to see them do some Elder stuff, because they usually
I never would have thought they were. Yeah, I thought the 45th anniversary was going to go by, or the 40th, is that right? 45th, that was just going to go right on by, and they weren't going to acknowledge it, but they put out that much merch. I was like, oh, good for them.
Like, okay, wow, for sure, let's go.
3,
So the next album I want to show is, I think we've already shown this one too, but Rock and Roll Over.
Nice.
It is a personal favorite of mine and Jeb's. It was one of the first records or first CDs that we listened to, but there's something special about this version. And I don't know if you can see, but it is a teardrop pressing.
Ooh.
So I think you can see it right there. There's the teardrop. So this is a teardrop pressing, and the story behind it is kind of funny. I hope it translates, because it was very, very funny at the time. And so Jeb and I, this was several years ago, Jeb and I one night on a whim decided to go record shopping. And this is like back in the days of, how when you get your first job, you get your first paycheck, what do? You just spend it and blow it all immediately, because you feel like, oh, you have all this money. And, back in those days, pretty mued.
Yeah.
Jeb and I decided one night we were just going to go record shopping. And actually it was the same place. We went to the same record store where I bought my first copy of Love Gun, that first record. We were at that same place, and I was sifting through, and I wasn't really finding anything. Jeb always seems to have really good luck when we're out record shopping. We'll be sitting there, sifting through bins, and every 30 seconds he's, oh my gosh, no way, or oh, I can't believe it, or I don't have this, I need this. And so he's always finding gold. And I feel like I'm struggling to even, come across stuff. But I always check the Ks. Every Kiss fan knows you always check the K section at the record store. So I was checking the Ks and wasn't really seeing anything. Everything they had, I already had. And so I think I ended up settling on getting, it was a copy of Paul Stanley's solo album, another one of the copies. I mentioned I had several. So this is one of those versions. I think it's a Hong Kong pressing, actually. So I saw this, Hong Kong pressing of Paul's solo album and thought, well, I mean, I love Paul's solo album, and I'm not really finding anything else. So it's only a few bucks. I'll get it, whatever. And so here comes Jeb with his pile. He can barely stand up. He's got all his records, and here I am with my, one Paul Stanley. But we get up there, the guy says, hey, it's buy one, get one free on used vinyl. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I, didn't want to hold up the line because there were people behind me. So I just quickly ran back to the caves and sifted through, and they had some of the 2014 new ones. I couldn't get those because they weren't used. So I was looking for the first used Kiss album I could see. Boom, Rock and Roll Over. I took it, I grabbed it, went up and paid. Didn't think twice about it. Again, I didn't want to hold the line up because it's behind me. So I just said, okay, I'll get another. I think I already had like a couple copies of Rock and Roll Over, but I was like, it's for free. Why not?
Yeah.
So I grabbed it, and Jeff and I went home. You know, we're feeling good. You know, got a couple records, and of course he's, you know, got his stuff. So we're just, you know, geeking out, going back and forth, sharing our records. And we get to the Rock and Roll Over copy, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I already have a copy, but who cares, right? I got it for free. And oh no, actually, the record was we didn't have the record with me. It was like in my room or something. We were in his room, so we're all the way across the house in his room. And I mentioned, yeah, I already have a copy of Rock and Roll Over, but whatever, I'll just get one because it was free. And he goes, wouldn't it be funny if it was a teardrop pressing? And we both just kind of laughed, and then we stopped and looked at each other. And then for the heck of it, we just ran across the house, and we're on hardwood floor. So we slide on the hardwood floor. We stop, we grab the record, and we look. It's a teardrop pressing. And so we just round the high fives, and we're jumping. And, you know, I think they're not even really that rare and that expensive, but who cares? The fact that it was a teardrop, the fact that we just so happened to just guess, the fact that we just so happened to go record shopping that night. We just so happened to get this record for free. And it's a freaking teardrop pressing. How cool is that?
Never seen one in the wild. That's awesome.
This is one of the ones that I don't know if you can tell, but it's more pink. You see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yours was a little bit more red. This one's a little bit more pink around the edges here. So I don't know if that's because of the teardrop pressing. I don't know if it's because it's just faded because it is an older pressing. Obviously, the one from 2014 is very vibrant, very red, but this is one of the ones that has a more of a pinkish hue to it. So anyway, There you go. Teardrop. Now, there is no teardrop on the back.
I was going to ask if there was a teardrop on the back.
No teardrop on the back, but there is a teardrop on the front. So that's very, very clearly a printing error. This is not intentional to try and sell units. If you can look really, really close, you can almost see the irregular shape.
Yeah.
And how it's not, you know, if this was a designer going in and intentionally adding a teardrop, it would have a perfect, pristine, you know, or more of a hand drawn. This is a literal random. So for anybody out there who thinks this was intentional and it was some ploy to sell records, I don't think it was. It was a printing error. It just so happened to be printed on several of these Rock and Roll Over copies, and now we have them.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, what's up, man? What you got next?
All right. So kind of keeping in the theme with the Elder, this was one that got was it a 2021 reissue in Canada through Universal, not Canada, in Germany through Universal. I thought, I'm never going to be able to get a hold of this copy. This is just going to be a record that it's just going to be omitted. It's a greatest hit. It's only got 4 new songs on it. I'm probably never going to be able to get a hold of it.
Oh, snap. Killers.
Killers. So this is the Netherlands, made in Holland.
Nice.
So,
I've never seen one of those. That's pretty cool.
So this was one that from the record store that I was telling you about, where I saw the picture disc for Psycho Circus, was the same place back in the day that I got a cassette tape of Killers. And I thought it was a bootleg back in the late 80s of going, okay, these can't be, because I would see Rock and Roll All Night, you know, I think it may even had Escaped from the Island. Maybe it wasn't on the cassette tape, but I know Shandy was. And I was like, what is this? I don't know what Nowhere to Run is. And I'm a Legend Tonight. So we, you know, put it in the cassette deck and we're like, holy crap, that's Paul Stanley. Like, what crazy album is this? Like, I totally thought it was some weird bootleg and it was just a collection of stuff. So to be able to find this at a small little record shop that had just recently opened up in the last, maybe 2 years, and it was sitting on his shelf from his personal collection. So finding out that I had a Kiss podcast and we got to talk about it, he's like, oh, so you're a fan. So he actually cut me a pretty good deal on this. But to be able to get Killers on vinyl, I was like, okay, maybe now I'll go down the greatest hits route. I thought, oh, smashes and double platinum don't count, but you know, getting killers, I thought this was cool. So this was almost one of the last ones I was going to pick, but I just, you know, back in the day of going, well, I don't have a Creatures album cover. This is close to Creatures on cassette that, you know, you'd have. And the funny thing, I don't know if you have this on CD at all, but the CD is actually the Revenge logo in German with the Z's on it. You see the Revenge bullet holes. So, but anyway,
Oh wow,
killers.
that is awesome. Yeah, you're correct. That one's a hard one to find. I think I just recently got a copy of Killers myself, and I think it might have the German logo on it, just because they're hard to find. But that's sweet. So I think we're getting down to the last couple here.
Yeah, I've got 2 left, and you probably have
Two.
two. Okay, cool. The final 2.
So this is probably a prized possession out of my entire collection, not just vinyl. This is for me a very, very special item, and it is Monster. It is a picture disc copy of Monster, a fan edition, or the Fan Expo edition specifically. And you can notice that it's signed by Gene, Eric, and Tommy. I doubt I'll ever get Paul's. But so Monster in and of itself is a really, really strong record, I think. And we're actually going to be celebrating the anniversary of Monster here pretty soon in a couple days.
Yeah.
It's very exciting. I've been listening to it nonstop this entire week. Not this picture disc, but just the album in general. It's been in my car. I get in the car, whatever song I left off at, I play. And then whenever I get out of the car, I just stop it mid-song. I don't care. Get back in the car, let it roll. Just all week long, Monster, Monster, Monster. It's one of my top 5 favorite Kiss albums. I think it's just absolutely strong front to back. But this particular fan edition version, we went to the Indianapolis Kiss Expo in 2013.
I wish I would have gone.
And Gene Simmons was a guest. And literally, if you had asked me or told me beforehand that I was going to actually meet Gene Simmons in person, I would have laughed and, said, yeah, right. And then maybe in some alternate universe. But the fact that Gene was actually a guest at the expo and that we got to meet him was a dream come true. And Monster at the time was the newest Kiss album. I mean, it was brand new. It had maybe been out for like 6 months at that point. And so these were signed in advance. Gene signed them beforehand, and then we were just given them with a bunch of other Kiss stuff in a goodie bag, basically.
Cool.
But just to meet Gene, shake his hand, talk, get photos, and then of course get a big old goodie bag at the end was just a dream come true, an absolute fantastic experience. And the next year, Paul Stanley was a guest, but he was not signing personal autographs. He was doing Face the Music at the time.
Oh, okay.
So we got copies of Face the Music signed, but that was my only time ever meeting Paul Stanley. So I doubt I'll ever get Paul's autograph on this. But in 2015, Eric Singer was the special guest. I brought this. I got it signed by Eric Singer. And then in 2016, Tommy Thayer was the guest. I brought this and got it signed by Tommy. So this thing has been with me through a lot, even though it is the most recent Kiss album. This thing has been with me for a while, and I absolutely love it. I usually hang it on my wall, but I decided.
I noticed that
it's framed. Yeah, you can see it's
framed. Yeah, and I see it off Jeb's shoulder usually in the video, and my eye will usually wander to that and go, "Is it signed by Paul?" Because I think I've heard you guys talk about it before, but my eye always gravitates. Not that I'm not listening, but I'm like, there it is. There's Monster, and I'll see that version on Kiss Army Warehouse.
Yep,
and I think it's signed by all 3, or maybe it is just Gene. But every once in a while, I'm like, should I put this in the cart? Should I put this in the cart? Because I'm like, I see it on Kiss Army things all the time. I think I need a copy.
The answer is yes. You should definitely add it to your cart because they are absolutely awesome. And Kiss Army Warehouse is where we got them the first time, because they're the ones that sold the tickets to the Kiss Expo. So that the one they have, or how they probably had like 2 or 3 or whatever, those are leftover stock from this expo. So
nice.
If they're signed by Gene, it was from that expo, and if they're signed by Eric and Tommy, they were brought back and signed by them. But yeah, no, if you see one and you have some extra cash, I recommend it. It's pretty cool. This is a picture disc that doesn't really mess with the sound because the sound's already muddy enough. So this is one that doesn't really bother me. I've only actually played this once just to say I played this. This is before it was signed by all three, so it was just signed by Gene at the time. But just to say I played it, I did play it. Sounded awesome.
Nice.
In case anybody was wondering. But on the back, I can't see the back obviously because it's in a frame. But on the back, it has a live shot from way back, and it's their I'm not sure if it's their monster set because this was pressed before
that,
before the monster, but it is, so it's probably the tour in 2012.
Okay.
But it's a really awesome live shot, full pyro, big explosion. But that's on the back side, and then of course the front cover is the album cover of Monster. But I absolutely love this album, and I love this version, this specific picture disc.
Favorite track off the album?
So that's funny because we're going to be doing our Monster review on the next episode of Kiss Army Things. But
if you don't want to say, we can skip it. This is probably not going to come out for a little while.
Oh no, that's fine. I got a few, but the one that I just absolutely love is "Shout Mercy." It is a perfect Kiss song. It is. There's some songs like we're both wearing Sonic Boom. There's a couple songs on Sonic Boom that to me they just feel a little bit stiff, and you can tell that they're trying to hold back a little bit to keep that perfection in the studio. But a song like "Shout Mercy" just feels like the four of them playing together in the studio, playing live, with all the energy, and it doesn't always have to be like perfectly in sync or on note. It's just this loose, really upbeat, driving song. Every time I hear "Shout Mercy," I'm like, this either should have been the single or it should have been in the live set, because this is one of those songs where people say, "Oh, Kiss, they're they don't rock," or they can't bring the heat. That's a song that absolutely rocks every time I hear it. So "Shout Mercy," but I also got to give a little bit of love to Tommy's song "Out of This World." I really do think that is one of the strongest songs on the whole album. Whereas most people would think, "Oh, it's Tommy Thayer, it's a throwaway. He's just a spaceman." He was just given one song, and even if he was given one song, he made sure he did well with it. He used up every second of that song to make it the best. Vocally, guitar, it's absolutely incredible. I love it. What about you, though? You got a favorite track off Monster?
I like All for the Love of Rock and Roll. There's just something classic about it. I know some people kind of roll their eyes, like again, like a Tommy, like, oh, that's Eric. Freak, I really kind of like, just something down and dirty about the song, and just the way that they're playing it.
I pledge allegiance to the state of independence.
Yeah,
I love that.
And I was just on the tip of my tongue. Back to the Stone Age. That's just a fun song.
Absolutely, it is. Yes, apparently Eric is the one who wanted them to speed it up a little bit and give it more of that energy, at least according to Gene.
Yeah.
But I think if you look at the songwriting credits, it has Eric Singer listed as a songwriter. It's like one of the only Kiss songs to have all four members as writers. That's a great song.
Yeah.
It's a great album.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, what's your top two?
Top two. So this was one I had to replace after the tragic of some of my stuff winding up in a dumpster, but that's a sad day. So this was one, if at least in the Kiss vinyl community in the 90s, if you say H&H pressing, you know that they in the 90s went and did some different versions of some of the albums. So getting an H&H pressing of Revenge, and it's the blue marble version of it. So this was one that this was an eBay purchase, and I remember telling my wife, I've got to reacquire this. This is my favorite Kiss album. As much as Hot in the Shade was my entry point, this is my era, my band, and this was one of the first vinyls that I'd had in the 90s becoming a Kiss fan. And I bought it. This thing came out in 90, was it 96? 94. 94 was this pressing. So I had to have it. So I'm glad that I got it. It's got the Obi strip on it, and some of them didn't. There was two versions. There was the gray marble and then the blue, but the blue was the one I had. So I felt this was like a holy grail for me, kind of reacquired and getting this. So it's not the best sound on this one, but it was just one back in 94 when I had it back in the day. I absolutely, love this thing. So I'll kind of solo it. I love the marbling color in it, which probably is
Beautiful.
not doing it really well, but yeah, very, very cool.
So
So yeah.
what year was that or I mean it's from 92, I'm assuming?
Yeah, so this is 92, but it was released in 94. So H&H
Okay.
Pressing, they were out of Ohio, and I can't remember.
Oh, okay.
They had done this. They had done the Alive 3 that came on like red, blue. Was it red, white, and blue? And they did MTV Unplugged. They had done like 3 or 4 of them, and eventually they went defunct. So I thought it was kind of cool that it was pressed here in Ohio.
That is really cool because I know that they didn't they do some pressings of Revenge like over in the UK or something like that? Because by then vinyl wasn't being pressed everywhere.
Right.
So I don't even think I've never seen that Obi strip that you just I've never seen a version of those H&H records before. That's really cool. I think Jeb has a UK pressing of Revenge from 92, but I've never seen this one from a while.
The back of I'll solo myself here again. So the back of the Obi for this one is showing Alive 3.
Okay. That's
I think it says, and mine is 1,310.
Oh wow.
So yeah, this is H&H marketing distribution in Warren, Ohio. So was their information.
That's really cool, man. I've never seen any of that before.
So cool.
The only copy of Revenge I have is a 2014 re-release, and then I did just get the 30th anniversary Chrome edition.
Yep, I got that one as well.
Yeah, I know. And mine came bent. I was a little upset.
I felt so bad.
Yeah,
with that one.
It was the shrink wrap was way too tight, but
well,
it looks great. It's all reflective, and it just looks awesome.
I was worried because they had packed. I got the T-shirt bundle, and they had put the record in the box and then the T-shirt on top of the record and folded the box in. So some people that had gotten that were getting creases. Sounds funny to say, creases from the T-shirt pressing down on the lid of the box, and mine came, pristine, and I was, really lucky.
Good. That's good.
With that one. So, all right, what you got?
Ready for the last one?
Ready for the last one.
Now, should we show them at the same time? Do you think we have the same one?
I wonder if we do. And if you have this one, I'm kind of surprised because I don't know. I didn't know if you had this one.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and show it. And if you got the same, we'll do it. But my number one today, it's very fitting because today, October 6th, Sonic Boom. Wait, where's it at? Here we go. Sonic Boom. So
nice.
That's pretty awesome. Now, obviously, mine looks a little bit different because I do not have the jacket. When I bought my copy, this is an official copy, but it's only the vinyl and slip cover.
Really?
So now there's an interesting story behind this because when Sonic Boom came out, 2009, I had just started collecting vinyl. The first record, again, was Love Gun, $7. These do not cost $7. These are expensive. They were expensive then. They're expensive now. Mm-hmm. And I never, ever saw one to even be able to purchase back then. And those were my early days of Kiss collecting. So I was only collecting at, expos once every year. We would get the Kiss catalog from Kiss Museum. So these, when they were sold, they were gone. And there's only 10,000 made, and they had the special edition. There was red, green, blue, purple, and then the standard
black. I think there was 1,000 of. It may have been less than that. I think it was 1,000 of each. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. So even less than I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very limited. So they went like that, and oh my gosh, I'll never forget this. So I remember I was telling my wife earlier in 2016 we went to the Kiss Expo in Indianapolis, and I saw a copy of Sonic Boom on vinyl, an official non-counterfeit, an official Sonic Boom LP, sealed, signed by all 4 current members for only $250.
What? Only 200?
Only.
Capital O, only.
Only 250. Nowadays, that would be at least 5+. That would be upwards of $1,000. I mean, it gets stupid.
Yeah.
But now at the time in 2016, I was in college. I was in college. So 250 was actually 500 in my mind back then.
Yeah.
I regret that nowadays. If I saw a copy of Sonic Boom signed by all four, sealed, an official copy for only
200?
$250, I would take my money and won't even blink. But this one I actually got from KissArmyWarehouse.com. They were selling just the vinyl and slip cover for $100.
Now, is yours black?
Mine's black.
Okay.
Standard black. Yep. And I actually got a discount code and was able to get it for a little bit cheaper. But I can say that I have a copy of one of my favorite Kiss albums on vinyl. These are very hard to find, so I'm very glad that I have it, even if it is just the slip cover. And I love the fact that it has the lyrics on the back too.
Oh yeah, the lyrics are
Pretty
great.
cool. But you seem to have the one that's an actual jacket.
So actual jacket. This was actually, I wish I had, back in the day, I was just ripping the cellophane off, and I thought, I don't need the hype sticker, so I threw it away. I wish I could go back to 2009. This was actually bought off of Kiss Online. Bought it back in the day that it came out, and really had to convince the wife. She's like, "Why? We don't even have a record player." I'm like,
That's
"This
not
is
the
one.
point.
That's not the That's not the point. Listen to what I'm saying." And I was like, "It's like there's only 1,000." She's like, "Oh, it's going to be so limited." I'm like, "Yeah, this is it. It's exclusive through Walmart. This is the first time Kiss is able to sell this in this way and not having to go through Walmart." And so I was trying to figure out what color am I going to get? Am I going to get Eric's color? My favorite color at the time was purple, so I do have the purple vinyl.
Oh my! Wow.
Yeah,
You have a colored vinyl of Sonic Boom?
colored
That's
vinyl of Sonic Boom, and it does have, like you said, it's got the lyric sheet in it. It is the let's do this properly.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So it is the gatefold. We'll solo myself here.
Oh, I've never seen. Here we go. That's incredible. What an awesome photo.
This is one of my favorite shots of this lineup.
Oh my gosh.
I love it. And the snare that Eric has was quickly custom done for Eric. And I've inquired of Pearl about it. He's like, no, it was a mock-up that they did just at that time.
Oh my
and
God.
To make sure it's definitely real, I do have the poster
Snap.
as well.
I've never seen that poster either.
If I can get it. I don't know how many times
that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
That looks awesome.
Yeah. I've only had the poster, I keep telling myself I had to put it up and get it framed so it really stays nice or whatever, but did not. So I was figured I had to start the collection with Rock and Roll Over, since the artist has done the cover for Rock and Roll Over, Sonic Booms. It keeps everything circular. I wasn't sure if you had Sonic Boom or not, so I placed it here because the day that we're recording it is Sonic Boom's 13 years. That's just crazy.
If you look at the hole on the wall there, that's where
I was going to
Boom
say
record that's where the record goes, and then right next to it is where Monster goes.
I've seen that over your guys' shoulder. Usually Jeb's blocking it so you can't see the whole time, but
you know what?
But
it's funny that you say that, because I have this this magazine rack, and I see you have one as well.
Yeah,
I have this magazine rack right there, and the magazine rack completely covers the Monster signed LP, and it covers this really cool 1985, 86 little wall tapestry I have of the lineup with Bruce and Eric Carr from the Asylum era. And so it's funny how I have all this Kiss stuff blocking some really awesome, cool Kiss stuff. And then it's even blocking almost my Psycho Circus CD, the gold CD.
Yeah, that's cool.
But
so
yeah, how funny that we both have the same album, huh?
Yeah. And I was wondering, wearing the shirt, so this wasn't planned. I wasn't sure if you were going to have Sonic Boom or both. I'd finished mine. I had to resort to try and finish in some Mountain Dew, and
Oh, there you go. I love Mountain Dew.
Oh yeah.
But that's awesome, man. That's pretty funny that we both have the same. You and I are very similar in a lot of ways, and it's very fitting to have Sonic Boom as our number one today, because again, it is October 6th. It's Sonic Boom Day, and I've got both albums here. You can kind of see the covers.
Yeah, very cool. Even throwing, we talked about it on our Crazy Nights episode. The Crazy Nights cover is in that same round. All four members are in their own quadrants of the Kiss logos and 4 different quadrants. So it's kind of
good point.
tip to the hat that they kind of did that for Crazy Nights as well. So
That's a really good design choice there, because not a lot of album covers. I can't think of very many album covers that are like that.
that you can kind of twist in
Yeah, no
multiple
matter which way you
directions.
turn it, it works no matter what.
Yeah,
You're right. Crazy
For sure.
Nights, Sonic Boom, or not. Well, Sonic Boom doesn't work, but definitely Rock and Roll Over and Crazy Nights.
yeah, definitely do.
This was a fun idea.
Yeah, I thought this was cool for like kind of our first like official video, just to get a couple Kiss fans in the room and go, oh, what record do you have? What record do you have? And then makes you kind of go, oh, this would be kind of fun to do it again. So
Yep.
we need
And
to
again,
get you on.
It's a good way to get things off the shelf and out of the bins and in front of the camera to show it off.
Yeah, and that's just the cool thing about the collection stuff that you've got set up on your shelves or whatever. My Tommy Thayer guitar, I haven't had that down, the little blue one. Thought, I had to find a collectibles thing, favorite collectibles or something to do. So it's an excuse, like you said, to go around the room and go, it's dusty. I need to dust this thing off and take a look at it. Or I need to spend this 33rd copy of Rock and Roll Over.
And that's the beauty of collecting, is that, it's more than just stuff. People look at us like we're crazy. We just waste our money and all this stuff. But you and I have done nothing but share stories for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And when you look at the stuff in your collection, you remember where you were, or, where you were, who you were with, what you were doing. And it's just really cool to, Jeb and I have been doing this for years. You've been doing it for years. So it's been great to just kind of sit around and just kind of reminisce, if you will, go back and down memory lane and talk about all of our experiences. We'll have to do a part 2 at some point, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. Well, where can the good folks get a hold of you at? Where can they check your wonderful show and give your social media handles before we let you go?
So our podcast is only on YouTube. We're a visual podcast. We may at some point go to Spotify if I want to mess with it. I do a lot as it is, so I don't want to have to mess with too much. But we're on YouTube. Our show is on YouTube. We have other videos on the channel as well, besides the podcast. But definitely follow Kiss Army Things on Facebook and Instagram. We have all kinds of Kiss. We post Kiss memes, Kiss merch, Kiss throwbacks, all kinds of fun stuff. So, I mean, if you're a Kiss fan and you want more Kiss content in your life, come check us out at Kiss Army Things. It's a fun time, and this is why we do it, because we get to, talk to awesome people like you. Because, again, if it wasn't for our podcast, we wouldn't have been able to link up. We linked up, and then we met at the Dayton show, and then we did a review on my channel, or our show.
Yeah.
And now we're on your show. And last night I was on, Brant's show. You were on Branch and Kiss Army Nation. And, that's the beauty of it, is that everybody gets to share the love of, this band, which, to everybody else on the outside makes no sense. People that,
right.
I was talking to somebody at work, was like, so you're really into Kiss, huh? And I was like, yeah. And they go, your wife, is she okay with that? And I was like, yeah, she loves me for me, and
yeah.
And this person, it was a sideways comment, but they go, huh, I don't know if I could love somebody who has a dedication and a passion like that. And then just kind of walked off. And I was like, what a weird,
that's not even a backhanded compliment. That was a punch in the nose. Like,
it's just, I was like, what a sideways random comment. I was like,
Yeah.
Everybody has to have something in their life that's, fun for them and is an escape from the everyday grind.
Yeah.
And, for us Kiss fans, it's 4 weirdos in makeup.
Or for some of us, dreaming of, I wonder if they'll ever put on makeup. Nah, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Well, this has been awesome. We'll have to get you on the official audio only version of the show, so that we don't have to see faces and you can pick your nose and eat while we're This has been a blast. Thanks for doing this first episode here on the YouTube channel. And this is where we're going to put a pin in this one, folks. So the Carusos aren't here. So on behalf of Xander from Kiss Army Things podcast, I'm Rob, and you've been listening and watching Right Between the Ice podcast. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Take care.